community, and Aquaba. Welcome to Espresso Talk Today. I'm your host, Ama-Robin, and I'm having my turmeric coffee today for a meeting with a very special guest. Today on this show, I am meeting with Demiesha Dennis, who founded Brown Girl Outdoor World. Brown Girl Outdoor World engages in outdoor activities for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. But it's a lot more than that. BGOW, as they say, is committed to rewriting the narrative of who can be in outdoor spaces. Often, these spaces have been claimed by white people. But we know that the great and beautiful outdoors is for everyone. And BGOW, Brown Girl Outdoor World, is ensuring that we Black, Indigenous, and people of color can also enjoy and reclaim our space there, safely and responsibly. And Demiesha Dennis, the founder of Brown Girl Outdoor World, is at the forefront of this important movement to reclaim our space in nature, and this part is important, and to show respect for Mother Nature through conservation activities and other efforts that give back and express gratitude for our natural environment. BGOW actively works to change the present narratives related to inclusion, belonging, and safety in outdoor spaces for historically excluded communities. And Espresso Talk Today is also working to expand the present quote-unquote zone of belonging for all oppressed and secluded people. The tagline for Brown Girl Outdoor World is change the narrative through adventure. And that's exactly what they're doing, but so much more. So, Aquaba, welcome Demiesha Dennis to the Espresso Talk Today's show, and Aquaba to my dear brothers and sisters and beloved gender neutral and gender non-conforming folks. I'm so glad that we're all here together today. But before we dive in, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're feeling this show, share it with your fam, your crew, your circle, everyone in your community. Now, grab that espresso and close the door behind you, because we're going to get deep and we're going to get real. And I hope that y'all are ready for this. Hey, Mel.
Hi, Robin. How are you?
I'm great. How are you today?
I am doing absolutely great.
So glad to hear that. And I'm really good too, because I am having an espresso, or actually a cup of tea today, with a very interesting person named Demiesha Dennis. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her later. You're going to learn more about her. But let me first introduce you to Demiesha. This is Mel, Demiesha.
Hi,
Hi,
Demiesha.
Mel.
Yeah, great to meet you.
And same on my part as well.
Well, Demiesha is doing some real myth busting and some really great, fantastic work. She started an organization called Brown Girl Outdoor World. And it's an organization that supports women and women identifying individuals, getting outdoors and connecting with nature and having outdoor adventures. And I can tell you, this is some really interesting stuff I've been following her doing on Instagram. And yeah, and thank you for your encouragement there too. And let's see, and challenging themselves and supporting each other. I mean, it's really just a great environment I can see, and a great group of women and women identifying people. And I love this part too, challenging the assumptions about the outdoors and who belongs in it.
Mhm.
Now, I mean, I know as when I was really young, my family, we were always out camping and fishing, although we were mostly lake fishing. I was actually really, really good too. And my casting was fantastic. And now I've taken up more hiking and And my husband lives in, well, is from Sweden, so we've been doing a lot of hiking up in the snow too.
Mm.
So when I saw Demiesha's article, well, the article about Demiesha in Sierra Magazine last year, I said, I've got to meet this woman and I've got to learn about this group. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to actually ask Demiesha some questions because I know our audience wants to hear more about, her work and about her. And so, Demiesha, you are from Jamaica.
I did.
And so,
I did.
how did you end up, or well, this part of your journey in Canada and becoming an expert fly fisher person?
Yeah, I don't know how the term expert really applies to me because I feel like the amount of times I've gotten a fly caught in my hair, some would question whether or not that's expert. I I'm an expert learner and I'm an expert. That's where my position with fly fishing starts. But if we take it back to me growing up in Jamaica and being born in a place where fly fishing was never a thing, I grew up with my grandma in a pretty rural area of Jamaica where we still have dirt roads and we still have, where up until maybe 1999, our neighbors came to our house to make a phone call because we were the first ones in our neighborhood with a telephone.
Mm,
So we still had that old school feel of being connected to the world, but yet so disconnected from it in a way that we didn't have to be performative about our existence. We didn't have to be, anyone else's story. We could just be ourselves in that place there. And that's a part of what, when I moved here, I had that, that awakening, like, whoa, this is a whole new world, a whole new experience. How do I bring my Jamaican to Canada and make that work for me? Because I
mhm,
was used to always being outdoors and being barefoot in the streets or being barefoot on the grass at the front of the house, walking with my grandma. She's planting seeds, and her explaining to me the birds. And in my wisdom, I thought this was just a little old lady who didn't know the names of the birds, but was just telling me about them. And then as I moved to Canada and I grew older and we got all this information in front of us, I'm like, whoa, those were actually the names of the birds. So,
mm,
my grandma was a birder before birding was a thing in my mind. She
mm,
was my catalyst to the outdoor world.
mm,
Wow, there's so much we learned from the elders, and then, we just think, oh, they're making up some stuff, or they're just trying to entertain us. And then as we
Hmm.
get older, it's like, wow, I can use this. Wow, this is
mm.
it's true. This is
Like, yeah, look at my grandma making me look cool now from her knowledge. And, it's not me, it's actually her that you're seeing shine through me in a lot of the ways that I show up in the outdoors.
That's wonderful. And where are you exactly?
I'm currently
Mhm.
in Toronto, Canada, and no, we don't have epic snowstorms here in Toronto anymore, and we don't have mountains. Like, we someone were on a call and someone's like, "Oh, you must know what this is about," and I was like, "Yeah, New Mexico and Canada are entirely different. We don't have mountains within Toronto here. Maybe somewhere else, but not within Toronto." So, yeah.
And how did fly fishing, come into the scene?
So fly fishing for me was a bit of a let's see how much we can screw with the white man if I show up in his space with a rod that he thinks he
Ooh.
owns and knowledge that he thinks he has for himself. I want to be that person that shows up in the space as this young-ish Black woman stepping into a space that's been dominated by photos or videos of everyone's journey being remembering Brad Pitt on A River Runs Through It and him making that beautiful cast in a river and me being this person who's showing up knowing absolutely nothing about fly fishing. Like for me, my actual first time fishing was on a river here in Toronto, and I had no clue what fishing looked like. I know I didn't want to go to church on a Sunday, and so my rebellion was going to the river. And I went, I went with a stick, a piece of crochet thread, and a safety pin, and I was destined to catch all the fish in the river until I saw them swimming by and looking at me with a little head shake and kept it going. So needless to say, I caught nothing. But for me, and this is before the epic rise of the internet, I'd say, that my research was in the library. My research was in the hardware store that happened to sell fishing equipment and being like, hey, I really want to learn about this thing. Who can I talk to? How can I talk to someone and get some information? I did all the spin fishing I could, and then I really saw this thing, this fly fishing thing. I have no clue what this is about. It looks technical, it looks difficult, it looks very white. I want in. And
Okay.
so that's what I did. I went out and I booked a lesson with an instructor on a river here in Toronto. And my initial experience was not the greatest. But for me, I had a mission in my mind that I wanted this thing to be a part of my story. And the moment that I stepped into the river that day and I was wearing full waders and I had my fly rod, the thing that I took away from that experience was the way that the river hugged my legs when I stepped into the river. It was as if nature was saying to me, "You're welcome here. This is your space." And
Mhm.
that's what's carried with me throughout my journey of fly fishing or learning to fly fish, becoming better at fly fishing, and also introducing my daughter, who's now 18 and wants nothing to do with the outdoors, really, except if it's not snowboarding, to introduce her at least so she has that foundational knowledge of what fly fishing is.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Well, and how were you said that it wasn't the greatest experience when you first went out. What was that about?
Yeah, I think I had gone out with a new someone who was newer or newer to instructing folks on fly fishing, and
Mhm.
so there were pieces of a beginner's experience that were missing from that instruction. There were pieces of what again, you going on a river for the first time and everyone sees you and you're again a black woman fly fishing. That doesn't happen, and that doesn't definitely doesn't happen here in Canada. And what we see is this the stares and the asking, do you know what you're doing? Or me walking over a rock that, I didn't notice because I don't know a riverbed and I didn't know how to navigate a river then. So
Mm.
those pieces didn't create an experience for me that I was like, yes, let me go back immediately. Like I want to do this. But like a lot of things, what I do is I invest first, ask questions later. So I already bought all this equipment and I'm like, I'm not letting my money go to waste. So we're going to use it. And so I kept on going back to learn how to fly fish, going out with different people, making friends within the fly fishing community over time. And then, over time, after not catching fish, then you kind of realize like, oh, I really need to know what flies are, and I really need to know what type of fish are looking for certain types of foods. And so I'm going to make sure I go out and get that knowledge some way, somehow through research, through conversation, through watching other folks on the river, and then the progressive learning. And when I said I am not an expert by any means, I'm still very much learning. That is because there's so many different rivers to learn. There's so many different ways to learn to fly fish. And I never want to close myself off of the learning aspect of it because there's so much more to explore from being able to learn those different rivers and places.
Okay, I just have actually one more question. We're going to talk about preparation and the importance of that. But I just have to ask this, and I know Mel wants to ask you a bunch of questions, and I'm hogging all of your time. Um, but what was it like when you caught your first fish? How did that feel?
Oh, it was glorious. I wanted to run and tell everybody. I wanted all the pictures. Well, it was glorious. And when I caught my first fish, I did not know what to do. I was like, the first fish I caught was a bass, and
Mm.
that thing was so slimy. And I when I was spin fishing, I would be I my daughter and I was using worms. My daughter was as young as she is was the one who had to put that worm on the hook for me because I am not touching it. So the
Yeah.
and yeah, I was not touching it. And then when I got into fly fishing and I learned how to hold a fish. I learned how, a fish feels in your hand and that they will squirm and they'll feel wiggly. But the idea of catching something after you've put in the work to make that thing a reality is nothing that I can compare it to outside of fly fish or fishing actually. It is like you've built a relationship with all the ecosystems that allowed you that opportunity and you just want to, it's almost like a reverence and a thank you to all the ecosystems that have brought you to that space.
Well, I love that gratitude for nature and yeah, that experience. And okay, I'm sorry. And Mel, you said
Yeah.
you had.
Yeah, I did. I'm really interested in what your motivation was for starting Brown Girls Outdoors.
Yeah, that came from again me moving into Canada and I started going like just walking. I wasn't calling it hiking when I was doing it. I was walking. I moved to Canada in 2000 and I was living on a trail here called the Humber Trail, very close by the trail. And so I would be the person I would, in the evenings I'd come home from school. my assignment's done, I have no chores. What am I going to do? I'm going to go down to the Humber Trail and go for a walk. And I would see all kinds of deer, and I'd look in the river and I'd see the fish going by in the river. And I'd be like, yeah, this is something I really want to do. But the more time I spent outside, and then the more I started developing friendships, I realized that I wasn't seeing, even when I lived in a racially diverse neighborhood, I wasn't seeing us on that trail. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't seeing us represented in the folks who are coming out to enjoy the beauty of nature. It was more of, yeah, I can walk by and I can walk the length of this trail and I'd be the only person of color, the only Black person out here for the longest time. Um, Brown Girl Outdoor World came from me wanting to kind of create space for other people to feel like they can see themselves there. They can go outside. They can also like enjoy nearby nature. They can go out and they can have experiences in nature that says, hey, there's a sense of belonging here for you. Not because you haven't been invited doesn't mean that you can't experience. And so
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to create Brown Girl Outdoor World as that open invitation. It was that we've created a space because we've seen a need. We're taking the steps to ensure that when you come out here, you can also include and be included in a space that feels safer to you to want to navigate these spaces. You want to go out because you see people who look like you. You want to build a relationship. And so by creating Brown Girl Outdoor World and being able to share our stories and to invite other folks to come out with us, we've been able to create a little bit of a shift in what experiencing the outdoors looks like for folks, especially specifically women of color, to come out and experience the outdoors.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, which includes my second question was, how did you decide which group to focus on? Which, and that's
Yeah.
pretty obvious, but it's really interesting. How did you convince people that this was a good thing for them to do?
So part of what we focus on when starting BGOW was I noticed that there was such a heavy focus on a youth audience, like a heavy youth audience there. Everyone's focused on giving youth this information. Get the youth outside. The youth are the future. But what if the caretakers in the home don't have that knowledge? What are we saying? Who are we giving this information to? The knowledge keepers in the home, the people with the spending power in the home don't have this knowledge. So for
Mhm.
BGOW, the conversation wasn't just about getting folks outside. It was specifically looking at a demographic of people who, one, their parents were either from an immigrant population and didn't have the time to dedicate to taking kids out, taking us who are now the caregivers and the knowledge keepers at home to take us outside. They were busy working 3, 4 jobs to make sure ends met. They wanted to, your education came first, and a part of education wasn't the outdoors. So
Mhm.
we focused on giving the demographic of people who we have seen neglected in that space the information to say, hey, you belong outdoors as well. You can create a life for yourself outside. You can come out and enjoy the outdoors and be involved in that experience. When we and I think I'm missing your question. I think I'm partially answering it, but not. But when we saw who we wanted in the outdoors or who was missing from the outdoors, we knew that the mission had to match the work that we were willing to do. We knew that we wanted to change the narrative about outdoor adventure and change who we saw showing up in outdoor adventure based on that, the invitation we were creating.
Mhm. That's amazing. But did you have any trouble convincing people that yes, this is a good thing to do?
Oh yeah, the first we had to challenge the narrative and the notions again that we don't belong. We had to
Mhm.
challenge what belonging felt like, and not just within the system itself of what was created for the outdoors, but we had to also challenge the internalized ideas that we don't belong. We have to challenge what came from historical evidence. We had to challenge what came from, how our interactions with the outdoors were seen as non-existent, or it wasn't a place for us to live, right? It
Mhm.
wasn't a place for us to explore because there are hidden dangers for us as folks of color in the outdoor based on history. I i my ident- my identification with that story of the outdoors as danger came later in my journey on finding the outdoors in Canada. Because I grew up in Jamaica, that wasn't the history that we were given. We were given the you know get outside the house, go play in the bush, go away, don't come back until the sun's going down or something. That was for
Mhm.
us. But then moving into Canada and specifically in North America, and learning the history of enslavement and how that played into how folks saw themselves within the outdoors, it was rewriting a story that said we are going to pay homage to that history, but we're also going to rewrite what our experiences can look like going forward and how we want to show up and how important this stuff is to our mental health and our well-being.
Hmm.
So convincing folks came from simply, not simply, I wouldn't say simply, it came from us challenging a notion. It came from us saying to folks that this was possible. It was at first difficult to get folks to buy into who the heck tells, a group of black and brown women over 25 that they can go ice climbing
Hmm.
or that you
Yeah,
can pick up
right,
and go fly fishing and they
right.
simply just believe you. Excuse me, a part of our strategy was showing the imagery of what's possible, showing up as ourselves and showing images of us doing these things to say to folks, hey, we're out here, we're doing it, and we've created this network that looks good for you, that we've talked to people, we're making sure that we create partnerships within BGOW that understands the importance of you being here. They understand what it looks like to create an environment where you can feel safe coming in. um, we talk about often about just how much that invitation is important, and we think about the invitation being very specifically catered to us, and not just a general invitation. It's something that says we saw we had you in mind when we created this event. Here's how we've catered that to make it feel the most welcoming for you, to make sure you feel safer when you come here. And
Wow.
that took away a lot of the actual hard convincing that we had to do.
Wow. That's part of the marketing question that I was going to ask you about. So, is there some specific way you market to Black people to Black women to get them out into the outdoors?
Mhm. Initially, when we started in 2018, I started with my sister, her partner, and two coworkers at the time. And
Mhm.
we took a hike in the city, and we simply showed the possibility of what could happen. Here's this great place that exists off of a subway line. You can access it by the subway, the bus, and it's a beautiful walk, beautiful serene walk in a city space that is very well traveled. It is, it is very open, and at the end of it is this great farmers market, and we get to walk here together on a Sunday morning, and then the marketing becomes, this is a part of your possibility, this is a part of what looks your day could look like if you wake up, and we showing the images of us being in the farmers market or being on that hike, and the joy that comes from that collective presence within that space. The joy was the greatest part of our marketing tactic. And then here comes 2020 and the world shuts down.
Oh
Here
yeah.
comes 2020 and George Floyd. Here
Mm.
comes 2020 and Ahmaud Arbery. And all of a sudden, there's this realization that, hey, the outdoors is this great thing that can, and Christian Cooper as well, when we talk about birding, and we think about, hey, the outdoors is this really great thing. It's this really great space that so many people are capitalizing on. But where are our people? Where are the people who look like us in this story? And so many folks gravitated towards Brown Girl Outdoor World at 2020, when the world was at a standstill and nature was our only resort. Many folks were like, okay, I need something to do. What is the one thing that we can do outside that doesn't require us to, like, we can still social distance, we can still do all the things and still be in a community space. And so a lot of folks gravitated towards that story. And I'll put it with the white guilt that came about, brands started looking and saying, oh, wow, there's this demographic of people who actually want to go outside, or that we've actually ignored for so long. How do we get them involved in this? And how do we get involved in their story? And so that drew a lot of folks to Brown Girl Outdoor World as well.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, so you mentioned the ice climbing, and yeah, and I've seen on the Instagram the what's it, the fourth annual, let's see, hike, the New Year's Day
First
hike.
thing, yeah.
Yeah. So what other kind of events or yeah, adventures do you have?
Oh
Yes.
yeah. So we've done a backcountry camping trip, a backcountry camping fly fishing trip, where we take a group of 7 women into the backcountry to learn to camp and to fly fish on a 5-day journey.
Hmm.
Um, and
Nice.
yeah, that trip has sold out every year that we've had it. Last year was the first that we haven't had it we took a different route. We did a drive-in fly-in trip, a drive-in fishing trip this year. So we got a lodge. A few women showed up. We went fishing on a river for spent a couple of days. Food was prepared for us and everything. So it became like a luxury retreat for fishing. And yeah, we've done that. We've done lots of hiking. We've done whitewater rafting. We've done zip lining. We've done camping trips. A part of BGOW is also working with some conservation orgs as well to do some of that. We do like tree planting and river maintenance in the morning, and then we'll incorporate that with a fly fishing experience in the afternoon. So folks are coming out and getting both experiences all in one day. We do what else have we done? We've done intro to stand up paddleboarding. We've done intro to surf here in Toronto when we don't have much of a surf. So go figure how hard that one was. But we've had folks yeah, gravitate towards those opportunities and those experiences on levels that we didn't anticipate when we just started.
Which has been the most popular?
The most popular has been our I'd say between our ice climbing and our intro to surf program.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so what about the physical condition? I mean, is there something, some level of physical condition a person has to be in to participate in the outdoor program?
So what we do are we host intro events. We're not looking to build experts on everything. We're looking to build a place for people to come out and say, "Hey, I've tried this. I feel like I'm in a place where my body can handle the experience if I wanted to become an expert in this."
Mhm.
I just totally blew over our most sought after experience for the year, which is our intro to ski. I just blew right over that. It's one of our programs that sell out the fastest. We have like we last time we put out an event, we had to shut it down early because we were doing expression of interest, and we have spots for 15 people, and we had a wait list of almost 60 people.
Wow.
Wow.
So we have often have to when we put it out, we have to kind of like okay, we know we have these spaces, but we don't have the capacity to fill for everyone. So that process
Was
is one
was
of the
that
most
downhill or cross country?
downhill.
Downhill. Okay.
Downhill, yeah. So we do downhill and we have cross country skiing. I think if it's outdoors and it requires us to go outside and be in community, we're gonna do it. I think that's that's the mantra for our how we choose our activities is if we can create a community around it, we're gonna do it.
Oh, wow.
So it's a year-round thing. I mean, you don't say, well, it's 10 below, we're not gonna go. Or,
Mm-mm.
it's too hot. No, I don't think it's too hot in Canada. But yeah, you go,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, we get hot and we've gone winter camping. So there really is no place we won't go really as long as we can find partners that are willing to work with us and help us create that environment that feels welcoming and safer for folks to be in. We're up for a challenge.
Wow. And have partners been, how has that been, finding partners?
So 2020 was the year of everyone wanting to partner, right? 2021 when Black Lives Matter, 2022 we started seeing the gradual fall off of the conversation around Black Lives Matter, and with that became everyone challenging what DEI meant, everyone challenging what our presence in the spaces meant, and so with some of that we've seen some partnerships fall off. But we've had those partners who we gained before 2020 that saw value in having us in these spaces and are still here with us working today.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay.
So is there a lot of equipment required to participate in your programs?
So, what we do with a part of our programming is that we ensure that if you're coming out for an intro experience, we're making sure that you come and your equipment is provided for you as a part of that experience.
All right. Because how would a person know if you've never skied before? How would you know what to have?
Absolutely. Exactly. So the great thing about some of the partnerships that we create for a program like our Intro to Ski is that we are giving folks the opportunity to just show up. You simply show up as yourself and we take care of the rest for you.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
It takes away a lot of the knowledge barrier that exists and
Mhm.
prevents a lot of folks from getting into spaces. Takes care of the knowledge barrier, some of it takes care of the cost barrier, And the this again that aspect of safer spaces, it also takes away when we create these events and people are able to just show up. It helps you feel more of a sense of, hey, I can try this thing. If I like it, I can invest in the equipment. If I don't like it, I'll never have to do it again. There's no obligation on your part to say you have to be committed to a 1 year program to be
Mm.
able to participate in our events.
Yeah, amazing, amazing.
Okay, and I mean, for me, I do a lot of solo hiking and all of that, and I I don't really ski that much, but yeah. Do you prepare people or teach people about, the making or going in a safer way? You're using going out into nature in a safer way. If
Mhm.
they go solo, or do you discourage solo kind of activities that way? And
No, definitely don't discourage solo activities. But what we found through the BGOW community is that there's so many folks who have created friendships or created like little sub communities. If they want to go do something, there's no obligation to have to do it with BGOW. We are creating a platform for you to get that introduction to build relationships that helps facilitate your belief in yourself to go out and do these things. So
Mhm.
you're going hiking on a Sunday afternoon and you want a friend, the BGOW network is there. You come out, people connect outside, and they go out, to concerts together. They do things that help keep that community feel going outside of our events.
Oh, wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Wow. Is there a particular age group that you focus on?
So we don't we try to go where others don't want to, and that is giving again folks 25 and up
Mm.
that opportunity. We don't cut off at a certain age. We don't. We are more focused on giving again to the knowledge keepers at home, to the people who have the spending power at home, because we want to see folks through us investing in a more sage demographic, I'd call it. We give them the knowledge so that for those who they have influence over at home, or they have the opportunity to invite when they have that knowledge, we want to give that to you because we're not expecting a 15-year-old to go out and invest in their own skis. We're not
Mm.
looking at a 15-year-old to go out and invest in ice climbing equipment. But if we're giving those people who say, hey, we've tried this, we now see that there's an opportunity here for you to go out. Now you have that the knowledge that you can say, I want to invest in this for you as my ward. I want to invest in this for you as someone who I have some sort of influence with for you to go out and experience this thing.
Wow. Let me ask this question. Is there an upper limit age?
Nope. I
I
I
don't
if
ask that.
I want so badly, and we haven't had this yet. I want so badly for someone to say to BGOW, let come in with and run like have like this nursing home of like where all the racialized elders are, and have me run a hike for them. Have a
Right.
walk, just a short walk that we can create that community, or a church group or something that sees the value in creating space for these folks to reach out and say, yes, come lead a hike for us, because I am so down to share stories and hear songs and hear just joy from those who have had the some of those opportunities never afforded to them before, to go
Mhm.
out and experience that thing and see how much joy can still be found in learning something new at whatever age you exist.
Wow. That's absolutely amazing. That you would, think in that way. Let me ask you this. You're in Toronto, and if a person is in, say, Washington, D.C.,
Mhm.
is there any way they could connect with Brown Girls Outdoors?
Otherwise, yeah. So we don't have chapters within the US as yet. That
Mm-hmm.
is something within our scope of what we want to do. But there are
Mm-hmm.
so many great organizations in the US that are also doing this work. Um, and we think about not necessarily duplicating and taking away from what's there and what's available. Instead, we work collaboratively with partners who are already there doing this work and who might have had partnerships that they can rely on to bring this information to others. There's so again, I look at the US and just the way that there's so many great organizations doing that work and see value in being like, hey, we did an ice climbing event here in Toronto and you saw that and you're excited. Well, Outdoor Afro in Boston has an ice climbing event that you can go to. I there's no gatekeeping of knowledge on this end.
Fantastic. So if a person, say in Washington, D.C., and they don't know anything about nature or outdoor activities, could they contact your organization and find out what is available in Washington, D.C.? I mean, you might know some
Absolutely.
organizations. Mhm.
Absolutely. We have a very large network of individuals who also exist within the US
Mhm.
who, if someone reached out and we're like, yeah, here's this group, here's this community of people in Washington called Edge Outdoors that's running amazing ski events for racialized folks to show up and just learn to ski for free. Or folks who are showing up in California. You have Black Girls Hike out there who are running hiking events. So there's a total network of folks out here who are doing this work who
Mhm.
we would be like, hey, this is a group of people who are doing this work as well. Go out and experience what life is like with them.
Fantastic. That's it's amazing. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of us who have, there's work that was being done before the conversation around us and having belonging and being a part of the story. Were people who were doing this work before because they saw value in taking up space outdoors. They saw value in, the mental and physical benefits of spending time in nature. So there's a ton of folks who are doing really great work who also deserve to be supported through community efforts.
Mhm.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I this is a Black Empowerment podcast show, and this is, about blacks out in nature and the outdoors and asserting ourselves in these spaces, reclaiming them. Um, but I do have to ask about, some of the more difficult parts because, I when I've been out there, I can sometimes get the feeling that uh white people see it as, that's a white space and that, uh-oh, are Black people invading our space? And
Hmm.
I get the stares, and I get watched, and they're looking to see if I'm going to throw away my trash. I always do, but
Hmm.
I do feel a little bit uncomfortable. I feel some hypervigilance with that, and sometimes it can feel a little bit unsafe.
Intimidating. Hmm.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
intimidating. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, this is real, and what is that? Has that been your experience too, and how do you deal with that?
Oh yeah, I've gotten the N-word tossed at me a couple of times on rivers, and I've gotten the stares are pretty much part of the experience now. It's almost like you're out there and I remember I was hiking in Oregon back in 2019, and I'd gone down to Eugene, and I was hiking through one of the mountains there, and I probably was the only Black person on the trail, and I didn't take into consideration at that point, like, hey, I just want to go hiking. I'm here to watch an Oregon basketball game. I just want to go outside after this game is done and take a quick hike. And the overly helpful in the nicest, meanest way possible, are the experiences that you get. The people who want to tell you you don't belong, but they don't want to tell you you don't belong. They want to fake encourage, or they want to ask you questions, or they want to, how did you get here? Like, I hope you have the right equipment, or all the things that like
Mhm.
make an assumption that you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Um, yeah, we that was again the time of again 2019. MAGA was just a thing, and I was down the trail by myself, and there was a group of youth in front of me, and I sometimes I forget that this experience happened, and they were just shouting in front of me, "Make America Great Again," and I was like, okay, that's why I'm here. I am a part of that great story.
That's right.
So tell me what you see different than what I'm seeing.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but yeah, there are times when, I remind myself that while I navigate the space from joy, the reality isn't that it is always joyful for everyone. The reality is that there are people there who've had, including myself, who have had real tough experiences. But I also remind myself that I can't allow that to be the author and finisher of my story. I have a story that I'm writing that tells, a greater group of people that, hey, there's belonging out here for you. There is joy out here for you. Um there's health out here for you. There are job opportunities out here for you in this outdoor industry. There are, conservation opportunities for you to get involved in. There are different community building aspects of being the outdoors that we deserve to be a part of, that we shouldn't shy away from being involved in. And it gives us an opportunity to challenge those narratives and to challenge those questions that when we show up, people think we don't belong or we don't know what we're doing or we don't, this simply isn't our story. It is
Mhm.
our story. And if we think about where our ancestry and where we're coming from and how much we've walked and how much we've navigated spaces on our own without GPS, or we've navigated whole countries that we've been brought to without any guidance of how we are navigators. We've been navigating from time, and there's no stopping how much navigating we're going to be doing in these spaces.
Wow.
Well, do you ever feel like you need to, not go or to do something else or to take a something for your safety like bear spray or something legal, of course. Um,
Yeah.
do you ever do you support doing something like that?
For me, my greatest safety aspect has been community and
Okay.
taking others out with me when I do these excursions. In Canada, you can't carry a pepper spray. It is illegal to carry pepper spray in Canada. So I'm not out there with pepper spray or bear spray. We can't really, in here, and depending on where you go, yes, bear spray is necessary. But on a city walk, the greatest piece of safety that I've had is my community with me. And if I feel any inclination about something not being safe, I'm not going on my own, and I'm not going, period, if it's not feeling safe.
Mhm.
That's why a great part of what we do is we build these partnerships and we go out, we vet the partners that we have. We go out with people who understand the need for us to be in these spaces. We go out with people who understand why, when we say safety, it doesn't mean just making sure we have the right equipment, but it means that you're taking into consideration our psychological safety while we're there. It makes sure
Right.
you're taking into the intersectional views on what could challenge our safety. We're out here as women, we're out here as Black women, we're out here as women of color. Like, what does it mean and what does it look like to say, hey, we've never seen you here before, but we want to create a space that says you're welcome. How do we work together to ensure that we're taking every aspect of your safety into consideration before we bring you outside?
Mhm. Oh, that's
Wow.
really,
Yeah, it
that's
is.
amazing. That's amazing. Well, what about conservation? Do
Yes. Right.
your groups involve themselves in conservation activities or
I think
what?
I touched on it. Yeah,
Oh,
I think
yeah,
I
you
think I
did.
touched on it a little bit earlier, just in
You
terms of
did.
like where conservation is such a when we look at conservation from the concept of colonialism, it kind of gives you that I don't want to touch this feel sometimes. The
Mm-hmm.
reason being because it leaves out the conversation or the intersectional spaces where we've been a part of conservation for so long. We've been the lands have been taken care of indigenous folks for so long. And yet so when we approach conservation, we always are tasked or asked to approach it from a colonized lens. And that does nothing to help us. We're not takers and we're not separate from the land. We actually are a part of the land. And so when we do work and we do even work with conservation orgs, we talk about that story and that history and why it is important to approach conservation from a non colonized perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We beg them to respond to us in a way that says, yeah, we understand that you're a part of this. You're not separate in coming into it. We have been the ones who have, you know, pretty much excommunicated your presence here. We didn't make efforts to include you, but now that we see that the lands need you, we're going to be like, okay, let's invite them in, let's invite them in. No, no,
Mm-hmm.
no. We want to make sure that the approach you're taking is going to say to us, we are definitely committed to making sure that your story and that Indigenous stories are leading the path. And we're actually coming from a different place of wanting to see you be here for future. We don't do, when it comes to conservation work, there's no one-time commitment. We want to make sure that you're including us in the stories, building Brown Girl Outdoor World, building the folks who show up for Brown Girl Outdoor World into what conservation efforts and stewardship can look like. What plan do you have for us when you invite us in outside of a one day activity? What plan do you have for us to help us understand what stewardship looks like, or help reinforce that tree planting is also important. Help us to understand that, like, yeah, you're out here fly fishing. How are you thinking about the river and conservation efforts before you get to the river? What are your approaches at home and how are they impacting the water that you're trying to fish around your home? So we take that, for me, it's a full approach and not just a one day activity or just a one time show up, plant a tree, take a picture, go away. It's
Mm-hmm.
what are we doing outside of all these, like, media opportunities? What are we really doing to say to folks, come in, learn. If you don't learn, if you've never, like, learned about conservation in a North American context, what does it look like for me to actually give you an opportunity to learn and be involved in that process?
Right. Right.
And
Excellent.
people who who are participating, coming, being a part of your group, are they open to that, or are they here like, well, look, I'm here for a hike. I didn't come to pick up trash, or are people
Yeah.
open to it?
No, the folks are here, and you'd be surprised that like when we for one of the things that when you go fishing, we have or the fishing nets that we then fill with trash to take out with us if we're going fishing because coffee cups are one of the like biggest like contributors to waste. You go
Mhm.
somewhere and all you're seeing is a Starbucks cup, or in Canada it's a Tim Hortons cup, and or folks who are drinking beer. And what I've tried to remind folks of is if we look at it from a, oh, this isn't my trash, it becomes our trash over time. It becomes a trash that leads to us not being able to enjoy those spaces. It
Mhm.
becomes a trash that then pollutes the rivers, that takes away the fish that we want to fish for. So at the end of the day, conservation isn't an individualized approach in the greatest sense. It is a community effort, and BGOW as a community takes the approach that we also can help to take up what others are leaving. And when I look at conservation again, I say that hey, we there's this the dominant narrative of this old white conservationist, it's dying with the old white man, and it's not going to be sustainable over time if we're not being careful and including others who, again, when you think about immigration, we think about folks who are coming in to different spaces and what conservation look like for them there. What does it look like now to say, hey, we've seen it, we've seen ways we can incorporate or include and help you learn versus saying what you did isn't relevant, just learn it this way. The old white man who did it before, his son and daughter aren't taking up that charge anymore. His children aren't taking up that charge. So now we're the ones who are being tasked with doing something that we haven't been invited to, but we're creating that space to say, hey, we want you to learn with us. We want you to see the value in what you're doing, and we want to help push that conversation forward.
Amazing.
Okay.
Amazing.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So, told you I could talk.
And
Uh,
you say that it seems like conservation really isn't even the right word. That just seems like, well, that's something that you do, but maybe stewardship, would you say that's the right word, or what would be
Yeah.
the, yeah.
I think they go hand in hand. I think stewardship and conservation are words that work together to benefit any work that we're putting forward to the environment and to make sure we're protecting it. If we
mhm,
only look at conservation without stewardship, then we have empty words. I think
mhm,
conservation stewardship is a needed and necessary part of conservation work.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, I have to say too that yeah, when I went on to I've been, like I said, following you on Instagram, and when I saw you guys doing the ice climbing, I was thinking, oh my gosh, I don't think I could ever do anything like that. And when you wrote back that, oh no, no, we'll teach you the right way to do it. We'll take it slowly. There'll be a lot of people here supporting you. I thought, you know what? I want to try that. I'm way over in Lisbon, so just a little bit too far right now. But I felt like, yeah, I mean, it seems like it's a real confidence builder kind of thing.
hmm
And yeah, and I think that that's so important for our community too, to know that, you have the confidence to reach new heights and to try new things. And especially if you say there's no age group, people aren't saying, oh, I'm too old to do that and all of that. I find that community support is so important. And,
yeah.
while
And
it's not,
it helps you feel held. Being held in community feels, it makes any challenge that you're facing so much lighter. And I think that's an important part of what BGOW does is that it offers that holding, that like you're not here on your own. You're not gonna, if even if you fail, we're still here to prop you back up. And failure isn't a bad thing. The community is here to fail alongside you and to show you that, hey, we failed too, but we still got up and did it again, or
Mm,
we excelled at it. Here's how we got to the point where we excelled at it. It's a learning space. It's a space of again, being held and being reminded that you're not alone in it, and your failure is our failure, your success is our success, and we're going to do it together.
mhm.
and did you feel that this really is best done in an environment, a women or women identifying only environment?
For this, we wanted to, with BGOW, we wanted to take away from the patriarchy always dictating what we do. And
There we go.
Yes, with
we
you.
wanted we wanted to create that space to say that, yeah, when we think about the complex experiences of women and women identifying folks,
Mhm.
it often gets overshadowed by the great feat that this man has accomplished, or the
Mhm.
great feat that this other person. We get to tell our stories how we want to. We get to tell our stories in sisterhood. We get to tell our stories surrounded by, if we want to cry about it 10 million times, there's no one judging us because we're crying. We're okay with being the criers amongst each other. We're okay with laughing as loudly as we want to. We're okay with experiencing joy or breaking down that joy for others to understand when they're in our presence as much as we want to.
Fantastic.
Indeed. Indeed. Wow. Nancy, this is Black empowerment. It really is. So you are really on it. So, wow, thank you so much. Is there something that that I haven't asked or that you really want people to know about BGOW and what?
Yeah, I think we've covered quite a bit, but I do want to remind folks that, when we don't allow others to tell our story from a point of pain, there's so much joy and beauty that is in celebrating Blackness from a place of joy and resilience that we were never taught resilience. We've created resilience. We've created what that looks like for us, and we've navigated so much in this life, and to come out at the end of the day and still have smiles that look like $1 million, and still share laughter that can be heard around the world even when you're in one spot. I think that takes a special level of power and connectedness to self and connectedness to community that serves as a reminder to everyone. And we all know that when Blackness is served in a way that says it's possible, everyone else also benefits. So we're here for that story of executing life and navigating it through joy as the author and finisher of our stories.
Amen. Well,
Excellent.
Yes.
well, I finished my espresso and I'm not gonna grab a second, so I'm gonna wind down here. So, Demiesha, thank you so much for coming onto the show, and thank you for this incredible work that you're doing, and this joy that you're spreading, and allowing people to feel and express. And this is really amazing work. And one day I'm going to try this ice climbing. I really am.
Do it. I would encourage you. I mean, if you want to come to Canada, it usually happens in February every year. So put it in your calendar. I have a really big living room and an extra bedroom. Come on over and come and enjoy the party with me over here.
Wow, well, now what an invite.
Sounds
Thank you.
great.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Great.
Mel, do you have any other questions or?
No, I've just been fascinated by what you've said, and when you said any age group, because I happen to be in one of the upper age groups. I won't tell you which one. One of the upper age groups. If I could do some of this, and the hiking, and I don't know about the ice climbing, but fly fishing or some other things. I mean, that really gives you a sense of empowerment and a sense of not only joy but accomplishment.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
Course, we're creating possibility, and I don't think possibility has an age limit. I think we're only limited by, what others choose to think we're limited by. But if we create that possibility for ourselves. We're the greater reminders of what we can and can't do. And I think if we tell ourselves it's possible, I don't think the sky is the limit. No one could have told me that I could have picked up a fly rod and caught a fish, or even learned to tie flies that could catch fish. So I'm of the mindset that, and I'm getting older. I'm 42. I know. I'm 42, but I'm not getting younger. So I'm like, where do I want to be when I'm, 75, 80? Where do I want to be? I still want to be hiking. I still want to be walking around. I still want to be taking advantage of the opportunities that exist out there in life. And
Right.
so, yeah, even if I'm in a nursing home, I want to corral my little friends to come with me. Let's still continue disrupting the narrative with you, even in the nursing home.
Love it. Love it. Thank you
Well,
for that.
Raise a little hell.
yeah. Well, and I read this great quote that was saying is if you want to doubt anything, doubt your limits. And I thought this is really what that's about. So,
That's great.
Absolutely.
so
And I'm going to write that down.
yeah.
Great quote.
Yeah,
So thank you again, Demisha. And we're gonna stay in touch and I'm gonna keep following you on Instagram and keep being jealous of everything happening. And then I'm gonna be there one day. You're gonna see me.
absolutely.
We are going to be there.
We'll be waiting for you.
Okay, great.
Thanks a
Thank you for
lot.
the invite.
Thank you. Okay, bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
Jumbo, brave souls. It's Ama-Robin again. Thank you so much for staying with me today. That was an amazing and definitely uncommon conversation with Demiesha Dennis about Black and Brown people experiencing and enjoying outdoor spaces. We heard very helpful information about why Black and Brown people have historically avoided outdoor spaces and why we might show some reluctance to spend time in nature today. Yes, safety is an issue, from bears and raging rivers, but also from people who feel that this is their space. I'm talking about white folks now, but it's not theirs and it's not ours. Personally, I don't think it belongs to anyone. I think that everyone should be allowed to use and enjoy it in a respectful and loving way. And Brown Girl Outdoor World is doing just that. I love the idea of ice climbing. Really, I got to try that. And fly fishing sounds wonderful too, and all the other activities they're engaging in. There's so many different that goes throughout the year. And I love that Brown Girl Outdoor World teaches the fundamentals so that you can be safe and you can enjoy the great outdoors too. And Demiesha Dennis gave us great advice and and a few scary stories about how she has been threatened and disrespected by white people while she was spending time in nature. Remember the fly fishing story? That was just not right. Demiesha is so courageous. She didn't let it stop her, but no one should have to be subject to such racism and potential violence while spending time in nature or anywhere, actually. I would be interested to know if you have had any kind of similar experience while camping or fishing or hiking or just enjoying nature. If you want to share, I would really like to hear about your stories too. Let me say a big Asante Sana thank you to Demiesha Dennis for joining us on today's show and for the incredible and important and empowering work of Brown Girl Outdoor World. And if you want to participate in their outdoor activities and adventures, and I really highly recommend it, you might see me there, you can contact them on their website at browngirloutdoorworld.com or on Instagram at the same name, Brown Girl Outdoor World. They show some amazing and uplifting and real courageous pictures on their adventures on Instagram. Really just makes me smile, really. You can find this information on the Espresso Talk Today website too, at espressotalktoday.com, in the show notes for this podcast, and on our Habari page. Remember, Habari means knowledge. Asante Sana for being a part of the Espresso Talk Today community. I look forward to continuing these important conversations with you as we work for liberation and joy for all oppressed people. Not for some, but for all, for everyone. Espresso Talk Today stands with the liberation and joy of Black and Brown people. And so remember, my fellow warriors and outdoors people, know this deep in your soul. You are powerful beyond measure, and together we are invincible. Asante Sana again to Demiesha Dennis and all people who are working to empower and uplift Black and Brown people. And I can tell you, the work that Brown Girl Outdoor World is doing, that is Black empowerment at its finest. Asante Sana to you for being in the building and showing the courage and curiosity to talk about these issues. If you want to keep discussing them or reading about these issues, then you could definitely contact or subscribe to my weekly Black Empowerment newsletter, The No Mo Beat. We discuss lots of different issues there. You can get your dose of Black empowerment every single week. Never a dull moment there, but lots of powerful, uplifting, and liberating moments. You can subscribe at the Espresso Talk Today website at espressotalktoday.com or on Instagram at Ama-Robin L. That's Ama underscore Robin underscore the letter L. You can also find us on Facebook in our newly opened Espresso Talk Today Black Liberation Lounge. Everyone is invited. This group is a safe space for us to hold discussions, share thoughts and ideas, feel joy, express sadness, or just be. So join us, or you can join us on Instagram if you're more of an Instagram person, to discuss these issues or share your thoughts and find an uplifting and safe space where you are valued and heard. Again, on Instagram at Ama-Robin L. I'm Ama-Robin for Espresso Talk Today. And remember, now more than ever, strength, soul, and reparations. Ashe, community.